And Nick, this is a race that has become so tight all of a sudden. The big question now is whether that inaugural campaign speech by the Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre will be enough to put him on a path to be able to punch through or break through that deadlock that we've been seeing over the past few weeks. But just walk us through the shift in the seat projections between January and now and the evolution of that. What has your data been showing?
What's interesting, Omar, is that, at the beginning of January, just before Justin Trudeau stepped down, the Conservatives, led by Pierre Poilievre, were poised to win, I'll call it a supermajority. Over 220 seats in the Nanos projections were estimated to go into the blue column. Fast forward now, Omar, and the Conservatives, that 220 seat number has dropped almost 100. Or about 100 in the last while. And, the thing is what we've seen is a number of those seats going back to the Liberals and also going into the too close to call. So, what looked like almost like an automatic victory for Pierre Poilievre, if he was facing Justin Trudeau, has kind of vanished. And now we have a much closer race, at least, much more competitive between the federal Conservatives and the federal Liberals.
And the big asterisk there with that last graphic is that those are the numbers as of February 28th, because we don't have the numbers for March yet. So we'll see how that evolution has happened. Are we seeing a continuation of that trend? Has there been a turn? We'll see what happens when those numbers come in. I want to zero in on the battleground of Toronto. It is always a battleground. Vancouver is as well. But let's focus in on the GTA right now. What kind of shift are we seeing there?
Well, the thing is that, this is traditionally kind of ground zero positively for the federal Liberals. And, you can see when you're looking at kind of when the Liberals were really strong, it being really good for the Liberals. But, when you fast forward to, when Pierre Poilievre started to pick up seats and do well, basically you saw what was potentially almost like a blue sweep in Ontario if the Conservatives were facing Pierre Poilievre. So this is the back and forth that we're seeing, a Liberal stronghold swinging over to the Conservatives. Remember the by-election in St. Paul's being kind of the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, for the Liberal Party. And now what we're seeing is a number of seats being basically too close to call. And fights. We look at seats, basically in the Etobicoke, Kitchener, downtown in Toronto, but, basically Brampton. And what it speaks to is that this is a real horse race, that, Toronto is better for the Liberals than it was under Justin Trudeau, but it's still a lot of ridings are too close to call, especially when we get into the west part of Toronto in the 905 area.
And Nick, it probably speaks to the shifting targets of campaign itineraries as well, right? Seeing and tracking that polling and seeing where leaders need to spend their time. The fact that the Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has started his day in the Ottawa area and in Gatineau and is going to be in North York in the Toronto area later this evening says something, that he's seeing perhaps the cracks in that area.
Yeah, and the thing is the path to victory for both the Liberals and the Conservatives is basically in Toronto in the 905 and also in areas like Vancouver, because those are the ones that are really up for grabs. And it's basically street by street, community by community, riding by riding in a lot of these. And the thing is, it's too early to tell, Omar, what will happen. Both Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney have not run in national elections as leaders of their parties. They are new individuals. This will be the first time for both of them. It'll be trial by fire because of the impact, I'll call it the overhang, of Donald Trump and how he represents another wild card for all of the federal party leaders that they'll have to grapple with basically on an hour-by-hour basis throughout the campaign.
Is there a reason why we've seen this decline, or can you even say in the polling numbers for the Conservatives? We were talking a lot about the threat coming from the U.S., but to establish that causal connection and how each leader has addressed that concern, can we make that with the data that you've come up with?
Yeah, what's interesting is that when we look at the numbers, at the end of 2024, the last group to go to the Conservatives and to desert the Liberals were women voters. And what we saw is almost immediately after Justin Trudeau stepped down, women voters started to move back to the Liberals. And, for the Liberals, women are a big part of their winning constituency. And the same thing for the Conservatives. Men are a big part of the Conservative winning strategy. So we saw groups of voters, Liberals, Quebecers, for example, suburban individuals start to drift back to the Liberals with the stepping down and resignation of Justin Trudeau, Trump being on the agenda and attacking Canada, and now with Mark Carney. So there's a little bit of newness. I think the interesting thing, Omar, is that there's going to be a lot of similarities between Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, right? They're both talking about hope and change. And, maybe this election is going to come down to capability and likability for both of those leaders, because a lot of the other policy issues, I think, are fairly similar.
Nik Nanos, thank you as always for analysis. We'll be talking to you a lot over this 37-day campaign. I'm sure of that, Nik. Thank you.